to do with distance.
What do you mean?
He just wants to touch. He wants to be coddled. He wants eye gaze, like soul to soul.
Soul to soul.
Yeah, like he's
dog.
He's deep, man. He's real deep.
He's
Needy as fuck.
he sounds needy.
Hi.
Neha, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, here we are. Larry,
Yeah,
buddy.
buddy.
It's not about you, mate. Are you in frame? You are. Your stupid head is in frame.
It's all right. Look, spirit animals, they bring energy.
Look, I've had him for 9 years. He's a rescue. I'm like, how did I get so lucky with a rescue like him? I think he's got Bengal in him.
Yeah, he's so beautiful.
But
beautiful.
he's just, he sleeps like under my arm like every night. And he's a healer cat, so when you're not feeling well, he'll sit on your chest.
Oh.
And he'll put his nose on your nose for about 5 minutes.
What?
Yeah.
It's incredible the power of animals and what they have sensitivities to.
Yeah. And he came with his gut, so I did not give him his gut.
Sometimes they just have very good appetites,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he comes on recall and like everything, just like a dog.
Now we'll have Larry on the podcast.
Yeah.
Definitely special edition.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, when people say that, you're like, where do I begin the 37 years of telling you about a little bit about myself?
Where did you grow up?
Grow up. Okay, good question. Born in India.
Okay.
Dad was fortunate to be kind of traveling he used to be a weightlifting champion of the world.
Really?
Back in the 90s.
Wow.
Late 80s, early 90s.
And would he be available like online, like any records or anything?
I've got some photographs.
Yeah.
I'll find them.
Okay.
We can show them.
Yeah.
And he just, had the privilege of traveling way back when.
That's so
So
cool.
coming from India, where people still to this day, if you're middle class, we don't actually have passports. Like readily, like we do have passports, but it's not like everybody has a passport. It's not like a given.
Yeah.
So because he traveled and he had an opportunity to go all around the world, he had also been presented with an opportunity to settle in either Australia or New Zealand. Basically they're like, look, we'll sponsor you. He's got a lot of charisma.
Yeah.
And so we ended up moving. I was born in India and I moved to New Zealand when I was 4 years old.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Grew up there till I was about 21.
Okay.
Completed all my school, education, university. Wanted to be something in this world. And
what was that thing?
That thing,
I think.
At the time, exactly. And at the time it was inspired by growing up in such beautiful coastal surroundings. New Zealand is so pretty.
Yeah.
I was as a kid just outside all the time, mesmerized by
South
nature.
Island, right?
North
Island.
North Island.
Oh, okay.
But if anybody knows St. Heliers, which is like the bougie part, think of like the queue and but with the beach.
Right.
We were the poorest house, so we actually lived in state housing. But in the bougiest neighborhood. So that kind of created the aspiration as a kid. Like I was very shameful of living in state housing or having not the best, house on the street.
Why?
Just because all my other friends, kids on the block had mansions and big, affluence of life and this and pets and cars and we barely had anything. I think people can relate when you're an immigrant. You come with nothing. You build everything, and we didn't even have a dining table. To have a meal together. We would sit on the floor, had a mattress on the floor. I
don't have a dining table in here.
That's okay. Well, a sweet coffee table.
I did have a dining table, but then I had to get rid of it because I just don't have space.
Sometimes it's facts.
It's just about maximizing my space.
Yeah,
And
and I think people go, oh, as a kid you just see things and you go, that's what a house should look like. And I started learning early on that we were different. So that's what inspired me to go, I want to have those things.
Damn, you already answered that question. I was going to say what else inspires you later. I'll ask it again later.
Keep that in the back pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was the transition? It was just inspired by nature, loved all the beauty around me. Then I was like, I want to be rich and I want to be affluent in life. And I loved science. I was a real geek. And I pursued environmental science, graduated, became a scientist for 13 years.
Wow.
Working in mining. Yeah. At the age of 23.
Well, hang on.
Go. Ask me. Go.
Environmental science.
Yeah.
Working in mining.
Because it's the biggest place to get money and the biggest impact that we can make.
Right.
So they were the ones that were the culprits of, and also if everything we have is from energy, that's the pivotal point of, it's facts. It's going to be around all of our lives. We need energy for everything. Plus we need to do it differently because there's a need to change. And I wanted to be part of that change. And I'm a very hardcore kind of person. Like if I see something, I'm like, what's the best version of that? How can I go into like the biggest pivotal catalyst for that field of interest of mine? So yeah, I'm just like a really intense type A personality.
Would you say that the type of person that you were back then is completely different to the type of person that you are now?
The blueprint is the same.
Okay.
Still very hardcore. Still very type A.
But like I'm picturing this like, so you did science, you became environmentalist, like you're working for a mining company, like it's all very compliance based.
I know.
Like very black and white.
Yes.
Whereas, I don't know, I got this impression by you online and by meeting you in the first 5 minutes that I'm like, she's very like spiritual and like the world is all grey with like little bits of black and white, but like free love and like all this type of stuff.
I'll take that as a very big compliment.
Yeah.
Spirituality for me has been in my life all my life because when you are faced with challenge, danger, frustration, where do you turn? There's a multitude of avenues where you can go. I'm going to go and fight the system. I'm going to go find out why people do what they do. I was kind of, with my environmental background too, is like, what makes people do what they do? And then I wanted to go into kind of the science of it all. So spirituality for me was science explaining things real time, but then it goes a bit further to that which cannot be really explained. Spirituality teaches the wisdom. So science got me to the way that my thought patterns are. I love explaining things. I love understanding. I love, but then when I grew up in such an environment, and a bit of a backstory is I come from a lot of distortion and chaos in my childhood. So I was like, why do people react like this? Why are we so troubled? Why, so my why was the lead up to, why is my mum getting beaten up every day and yet she sits at the temple, which we had in the house, and she bows down when she's battered and bruised, and she sits and prays. So as a kid, I looked and I always ask why. And I'm like, what gives her the strength to do that? How does she do that day after day after day after day? So spirituality was like, why is she doing that when she's so battered and bruised and beaten, yet she's sitting there in prayer? And so obviously I wanted to, I admire her so much, and I wanted to learn what keeps her faith so prevalent in her life despite the challenges. And that got me seeking, because I had my own challenges, and seeing that as a kid, you also go, this is so traumatic. How do I process? And this is, before really the mindful era and this huge evolution that we have had with spiritual understanding took place. This is in the 90s. So for me, all I knew is you bow down, you sit in the temple, you pray, and I started doing that. I didn't really know the depth of it until recently, and at the age of 27, really, when I started exploring further and further, because my mum got diagnosed with cancer, and it was terminal. And I was like, yeah, so where is she going? Yeah. What's going to happen? How do I combat this? What do I do to save myself, to give her dignity for her last, so it's not something you can learn in theory. That's when you actually not have to, but I turn to spirituality to understand life, death, God, spirit, existence. Why are we here? Why do some people go so early? Going into chemotherapy rooms, it wasn't just people of my mum's age, and she was 51 at the time. There were young kids, and I remember vividly in an instance. It was in the canteen area of the chemotherapy treatment center. Mum's in chemo. I'm in the canteen making coffee. And this elderly lady comes in, and she's actually getting a cake out of the fridge. And she's like, oh, would you like a piece later? And I was like, oh, yes, please. That'd be really nice. And then she starts putting candles on, and she's like, oh, it's actually my daughter's birthday today. And so here's a mum with her daughter who's undergoing treatment. And I'm the daughter, and I've got my mum undergoing treatment. So I was like, there's no, life happens and takes life as it pleases. What's ordaining all of this? What's the master plan that they talk about? So spirituality is my quest for answering those questions, and it does have answers. There are answers for everything. Wow. Is that you, God?
Fuck was that? Hang on. I think that's a cat. I just have to go check I don't understand what's going on. The cat's there.
I'm like, is that you, God? That was weird. That was outside, though.
Was it outside?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure. It was like that way. But are you in a complex block with like neighbors?
Yeah. Bro, that was so weird.
I know. Random. And that was loud. Was that Mum? Is she coming in? I'm sorry.
Look, I know these microphones and these headphones pick up lots of things and make them really like I've done podcasts where you can literally hear the birds outside, and I'm like, but the door's closed.
Yeah.
I don't understand what's going on.
That was definitely that direction outside.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's what I feel. How are you? Are you all right?
There's so much to unpack.
I know.
From that whole dialogue. I don't know where to start.
Just take a breather.
So your mum's not around.
No.
She didn't have a successful.
No.
Yeah, that would have been really hard.
The hardest.
And your dad, is he still around?
He is, but we don't have a relationship anymore.
Yeah, okay.
It fast disintegrated from the chaos that was in my childhood.
Yeah.
And then I tried so much to respect and honor. He's my dad. I'm going to give him the respect. Yeah. And all of that. But I think when I went to my dad for something quite vulnerable and big 2 years ago, and I'm like, Dad, I really need you to be here by my side. And this is something I'm quite ashamed of. and I'm going to need a man. Like, I know that's really, I need a man. But I was like, this is the time I need this nurturer, carer, man in my life. And
What better person than your dad?
I tried to give him that
opportunity.
Yeah. And honor. So he turned around and said, what am I supposed to do about it? And I've never heard from him since.
Shit.
I know, man. It's not nice. So
So
there's that. Sorry. I'm a very complex being, and that's why I love On Human so much, because sometimes you're surprised at what happens. And when I say God, I'm talking about the universal ordained force of existence. It's like, even though I've had all of these losses, I promise you, I've had so many people gained in all the myriads of relationships, and I'm so abundant in love. Like, I'm very, very abundant in love. And sometimes you don't have life the way you want it, but if you take stock of the opportunity that life actually is, and you stop saying, I want it this way, and suffering is expectation of life the way you want it. When you let go of expectations, like I'm really let go. I still hurt as a child from my dad's, lack of relationship, but expectations at life. I don't expect you to come in and be the person I wanted you to be. It really does open and allow the light for other things, because then you're not just staying in that zone of, I don't have him, I don't have him, I don't have him.
Yeah.
Like, I actually have me. I have love. I have community. I have partnerships, friendships, relationships, and they have fostered all the, the way that I needed. So it's really beautiful.
And potentially he didn't deal with his trauma, in a way that is available to people now, and that
definitely
taking that initiative to like heal yourself, like I think a lot has to be said around like generations and what they went through, and particularly around like world events, like so I grew up in Southeast Asia. I don't know if you realise this, but you're actually a third culture kid.
What do you mean?
You grew up in a country not of your nationality, right? So I too I grew up in like Indonesia, Brunei, Singapore, but I'm Australian, right? And so not sure if you had the same experiences, but I used to get Australian kids asking me what part of Australia you're from. And I'm like, oh, well, I've never lived in Australia. Oh, how can you call yourself Australian? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just like all of that. And my dad was in the oil industry. And so in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s, there was like a huge stock market crash, and oil was the industry. Lots of money. Lots of money. Ridiculous amount of money. Ridiculous amount of spending. And, when you think about the family unit, organizations, the type of egos that creates, like the type of problems that creates, like you think you can like get away with stuff if you have money, like all this type of stuff, right? And it just creates behaviors and patterns that people didn't really want to like face up, And so my dad really started work away when I was 8. So he's never really like in my life, right? Up until I was 18, he wanted to like be my mate, and he bought me a ticket to go see him in Vietnam, and for 7 weeks.
Wow, that's cool.
And after 2 weeks, he pissed off to India for 2 weeks, and he left me there. to hang out with his mates. Yeah. And then he came back, and then some shit happened, and I was just like, who are you?
Oh.
It really scarred me. And and then I went back to Perth, and I was like, this whole facade of you thinking that like these kind of figureheads in your life are not who they actually are made me kind of think to myself, fuck that. Like, I'm going to develop my own personality. I'm going to develop my own being. And I did have a little bit of imposter syndrome because I was like looking at characters or people in my life, and I'm like, I like that, I like this, I like that of that person, and I just kind of like merged them all together. And then only in my late 20s, early 30s, I was like, all right, like now I know who I am, and now I can really start to believe in myself, and then when he passed away, like 7 years ago, I was distraught, and then it took me like 2.5 years to like forgive him for like not being in my life, and like it still torments me today. Like I will drive past a park and see like a father and his kids, like playing, and I'm like, I got robbed. I got robbed from having that type of relationship with my own dad.
Did you ever try to figure out why he...
Oh, yeah, I know why. Yeah, I know why. Yeah,
Does that help, the why? Or you still feel he
just didn't deal with his trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't really have the tools back then.
No, they didn't.
They don't even have the awareness.
That's what I mean. It was a completely different world driven by money and industry. And it was like, there was no real understanding around trauma or like therapy or like, it was kind of like shunned upon.
Unaware. Just complete unawareness.
And even to this day, like when I used to post photos from my photography work, I would get messages from his mates all over the world saying he'd be really proud of you, yada, yada, yada. And I remember reading those messages going, yeah, okay, that's great. But like he never once told me he was proud of me. So why would I believe someone else after he's passed, And then they went into, they would always tell me about how much of a hard-ass man he was. Like he was the hardest that any of them had ever come across.
In what respect?
In like if ever you were like having a bad day, or like if you were talking about emotional things, he was always like toughen up, mate. Like, like you'd be right, toughen up. And like, it was a big kind of like drinking culture and all this. And I don't drink. I can't drink.
Yeah.
So I never really like related to him. And then it was always really strange because I was so tall at such a young age when we were in Singapore. Like I'd be in bed on a school night, right? I'd be in bed and he'd come home with his mates like after work. Like after work, I'm thinking, like 8:30, 9 o'clock or whatever, drunk, and he'd get me up and be like, look how tall he is. Oh, yeah, we like feed him like long grain rice, and like stuff like that. So it was so it was like really strange,
Yeah.
But like, as I said, like ever since I was 8, he was just like abusive and like all that type of stuff. But when he passed, my mum told me some stuff. My mum told us siblings some stuff, and I was like, right, that's why he should have gone to therapy. He should have dealt with his trauma. I'm like, bro.
I get it. I actually really am seeing in my mind just everything that you said. Everything is exactly what I experienced too.
Yeah.
And then it occurred to me whilst you're telling me, I'm like, how much would that person be suffering? Like for me to be shitty, I have to have shittiness inside of me to be shitty to people. And cruel, if I'm being, aggressive or anything, there's so much inside of me that is turbulent and disturbed. And to live with that is in itself a suffering of the highest, level, because when you do that to others, imagine what you must be feeling inside. And it's no excuse to have somebody treat you like that. However, what makes me feel for them and have compassion is that the person is really enduring a lot of suffering because they are the way they are.
Yeah.
And how sad to go all your life without eliminating that suffering. And I too feel I'm going to rock up to my dad's inevitable funeral one day and to experience what you experience and also be frustrated and also have the why did you not love me? I'm a great human being. All I wanted was care and love, right? Like that's all you wanted. Nothing, no money, no this, no. But the incapacity of love, like they never had it to give it. They were incapable because it was not in them because nobody gave it to them.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I forgive in the respect that all it is understanding. And that's where suffering for us gets eliminated, I think, in my opinion, is like when we give so much of a lens of this is my point of view and this is how I would have loved it. The shoulds and coulds and expectations, again, it's like the trap of suffering. Then I become resentful and I have turbulence in my relationships because I'm acting out from the trauma and the pain. And to stop the cycle, you have to bring it to light, which your mum thankfully did expose that. And then secondly, not that you asked for my advice, but it's just for me, I'm like, just add the layer of compassion as a bystander, not as the child. Because as a child, you still have a lot of work to process.
Yeah.
And then that brings about like a bit of a, release.
Yeah, 100%. And look, I mentioned before, like I'm on my own healing journey. I think everybody's on their own healing journey, whether or not they know it or not. It's kind of like, there's some things that you need to unlearn because it's somehow gotten into your way of life. And, if you're not, even if you are like happy, I believe that you do still have opportunities to improve.
Definitely.
And we should never discredit the need or want to do that. Like as a human race, as a species, like that's all we're actually ever trying to do is survive.
Yes. Yes, exactly. I think we're just in an evolutionary pivot from survival to thriving. That's where healing comes through, because healing is surviving, fight or flight, fawn, freeze. It's like these are the the kind of basic, human things. Now we're in such a catalyst of change where through technology, resources, wisdom, the evolutionary speed at which we are changing is it's probably the biggest in the history of humankind. And the healing part is the pivotal one, because no matter what money or how best our economy thrives and how much things we accumulate, or accolades or likes, that's empty and nothing without true peace and comfort from within. Just comfort, meaning you are who you are and you love that.
I think I agree. I also think that now is either the greatest time to be alive or it's the worst time to be alive. It's like whatever perspective you have, it's the right perspective.
Exactly.
And I say the worst time because potentially due to the advancements of technology, potentially due to the fact that things are moving so quickly, there's, and I can't remember who it was, but there was this podcast or this talker talking about, our human bodies haven't evolved for like thousands of years. Yeah, we've gotten smarter, but the anatomy of what constructs us hasn't changed. And technology is moving so fast, it's like surpassed, like our evolutionary advancements. And so some people find it really hard to like deal with how quickly technology is moving, and we just need to like stop, pause, take stock, reflect, realize that, like social media is not the enemy. Social media is just the tool to provide the platform for the voice.
Exactly.
Or it's just the marketing channel for a business, or it's just, it's not the be all and the end all, and it's about just being smarter around how you use it in order to either improve yourself or like push your voice to other people.
Exactly. It's everything is a tool or a hindrance, really. Whether it's a car, you drive it from A to B, or you drive it into someone, or it's everything is a double-edged sword. It's duality.
Don't drive it into
someone. Don't actually drive it. Sorry about that. Oh, just as an example. The things that come out of our brains, but it's true, right? Duality is everything. Like even you yourself, your words, this mouth producing words. I could say the sweetest words, or I could say the most harmful words. And so another thing, we're always living in duality. It's how you use it and what you use it for, and the, I guess, navigating, discerning, how is this for me? Because everyone thinks they've got to be on this bandwagon that everybody else, like the other day, somebody said to me on my Instagram, they're like, oh, you're starting to use these little like hand mics, and like that's a little fad that's come in and it's cool. And I'm like, oh, it's just because I'm at a distance from like in my head, and I was like, am I using it as like because it's a trend, or like because everyone's like, oh, this little mic on these like Instagram stories. Anyway, it was just a bit of a thing where we follow trends because it looks like everyone's doing it. Oh, if I'm on an Instagram story, I should use a little potty mask, a mic, and that's it, what everyone else is doing. But in actual facts, like, do I need that little mic, or is it just because everyone's doing it and it looks cool and professional?
No, you're just trying to get better audio.
I mean, that was that too.
I'm facts. It's a technicality.
But my brain is like, wait, but I've got a great iPhone. Anyway, it was just an example I'm using as discerning what it is that you're using and why, and you're using it for.
I think that's an example where you don't need to like take on someone's opinion.
I know.
I'm like, bro, like
overthinking. It's not that deep.
I mean, it could be deep, but it's not deep. Like at the end, are you just like hating on me because I'm holding this thing? Like people be hating on anything, right?
I swear. And that's, I think, in itself, like.
Does this person have a podcast?
No.
Bro, get yourself a podcast and then you fucking work out with the little hand thing. You tell me.
Real talk. I think everything becomes like such a self-imposed judgment when people give you things like if someone's saying
Don't
something,
judge.
yeah, and then you judge yourself, you're like, oh, do I look like a dick doing this?
Doesn't matter even if you look like a dick. Because you know what? It means everybody else on the trend looks like a dick as well.
Yes.
Like, we just need to all be dicks.
We just all need to
And
be.
like, you know what?
Let everyone be their own dick.
Don't. Oh my God. Don't. What's the saying? And who fucking? I've got so many things going on in my head. I think it was David Goggins. David Goggins said, "You will never find a hater doing better than you."
Word.
Right, bro. Keep your
Can
opinions.
we talk about this?
Keep your opinions to yourself about the
Yes.
little hand mic.
Yes.
If you ain't got a podcast, don't talk to me about a hand mic.
Exactly. I also
If you haven't got cats, don't talk to me about how annoying Larry is.
Yeah.
Right? I know
exactly.
he's just sitting back there.
He's hanging out. He's straight chilling right now.
Nah, he's annoyed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh, back to you and everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
Either that or he's
Yeah.
just protecting me against the blinds on the
Yeah.
window.
Yeah. Well, either way, he's just being Larry.
You will never find a hater doing better than you.
Yes. Yes.
People who are
I-
successful will just give you all the tricks and the tools and support you like anything.
Mm-mm.
So it's like, you know what? Don't judge.
Mm-hmm.
The world is not about holding people back
Mm.
and like pushing your own insecurities onto other people.
Mm.
If you are not taking steps to improve yourself, don't hate on other people
Exactly.
who are doing the exact same thing.
Exactly. It's
Right?
so
Who
easy.
who are taking the steps.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, I definitely sometimes when I see people that say, for example, follow because I opened Artful.Yoga gallery.
Yes, which we'll talk about.
Yes, we'll talk about. And that is me stepping into the arena of a huge kind of exposed environment. And I see people like supporting and viewing and this and that. But very little like actual tangible real time. Like the margin is 20% real supporters and 80% like just looking and like, oh, what's going on? Like, oh, what can I kind of, you know, like, oh, is it juicy? Like, what's going on? You know, like
that was like me in my photography. I'm like, I see you liking my stories, so why don't you just like help me out and like
they don't even
share
like it. They
or like
don't
like it or like whatever. Like
they're watching it, but they're just like no action.
they're fucking reporting me. I know that they're reporting me. And it's like, I know who you are. Don't think I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
No one's reported me on the podcast
Yeah.
because
Yeah. No, I'm kidding.
I haven't got like, saucy content. But anyway. And there's never going to be saucy content on the podcast.
Well, we've learned from the learnings of
Yeah.
photography era, but yeah, I think with people stepping into the arena, unless and until you're in the arena as someone out there, if you're the bystander in the stands sitting there just like munching on popcorn, looking at me or anyone else doing their thing, it's like, I'm sorry, but this is not. You're not privy to. I've had like close friends, and this really hurt. But I realize it's not mine. Like their opinion is not mine to wear. But someone was like, "Oh, you're a fake spiritual person." I'm like, "How can I be fake spiritual? What does that even mean? I am a spirit in a human body." And I talk about my experiences, which are my experiences. And if you think it's fake, then maybe just don't listen, or just don't give me the light of day to take on what I have to teach if the teaching doesn't apply. And it did annoy me, but it annoyed me more because she was such a close friend. And yeah, basically I realized, I think when you step into the arena, as you said, there's a lot of haters. And there's a lot of people looking at you, and then they do have this disparity. But I'm like, I'm not going to give that energy. And I've learned all of these things. The first 2 years of my business, I learned so many things. My God.
You should have just hit her with love. And you should have just said, thank you. I didn't realize that you thought of me like that. I'm so sorry you feel like that. Goodbye.
Basically along the lines of it, that I did with a little clap back.
Yeah.
My clap back was like, you're not in, my shoes, and you don't know the road I'm walking. And until you're doing something for yourself, and also you're doing something that I'm doing, you have no idea. So you just don't have the understanding. So I've learned a lot of things. The biggest thing about getting into your space of creativity, your craft, your passion, has to be for you. It's not going to be for the likes, not going to be for the people that share, not people that comment, not people that subscribe. It's just for you. And if nobody was watching, would you still love it? I think that's what gives, this is like the year 3 of me evolutionary, the evolutionary kind of next stage of, first year was, the fuck am I doing? Second year was, okay, I've got a little bit of grip on this. Let's create some automation foundations, expand. Third year is like, I'm really going to discern what is mine and what's not mine, and stop people pleasing and doing everything for community when actually it's a disservice to my goals and my aspirations for this, and stop saying yes. And also stop thinking and how do you feel about it? What are your opinions? It's just like, this is what we're doing. Yes, I'll take feedback that is good for me, good for the whole. But if it's just criticism, that's great for you. That's your opinion. I don't need to wear it. And it just becomes a little bit, you grow so much when you try something. You grow so much.
100%. I want to take us back to when you were working for the power plant, though, because being a scientist and a female, like, you would have come across some real difficult conversations in that industry.
Oh, yeah.
And do you think having those conversations and those situations has just like armed you for what you're doing today?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. When you step into a room where you are the minority brown female, and the age gap would be the minimum 20 years, because I was early 20s, 23, and everyone was in their late 40s up to 65, and fortunate for me was 99% of the people in the room respected me.
99%. So you had that one person that said,
always one person.
You're not a scientist.
Well, just the people that don't give you the time of day, like respect.
You're just like the person saying, you're not spiritual. You're not a scientist.
Yeah. And also,
what do you think?
Exactly.
I don't know, mate. Like, look at the evidence.
Well, facts. I mean, I'm in this role, and also I've been completing it for 13 years now, so maybe facts. But that's your opinion. And I also realize there's always going to be that one person in the room. And when you kind of expand your rooms, as in you get out there more and more and more, that one will turn into 10, 10 will turn into 100, 100 will turn into millions, And that's where all of the greatest people that have done anything, they've always had haters. Even Jesus had haters. I think he got stoned to death. So
that's the oldest Chinese whispers story in the world.
Yeah.
I want to come back to, you got a million haters? What?
Not yet, but I think when you start growing, there's a metaphor. It's kind of like when you start rising, the shadow of you gets expansive behind you too, because you go higher and higher.
Oh,
you know what I mean? And the shadow behind you gets longer and longer. So
But we do suffer from tall poppy syndrome here in Australia.
We do.
And
we don't like anyone with any noise.
It's so annoying.
You're talking so much. You're always online.
I'm like, you know what? Like, why don't you just like stay doing what you're doing and just shut up?
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
Basically. The good thing about what we have privy to us now is we can do and be, and there's no, production company, or you don't have to have like affiliation with all these management things. You can just be independent, expressive. Basically, if you've got a phone and you want to say something, you can say anything you want. And so the liberty is that we have that expression of self. Who is to say what I say is right or wrong? Is just what I want to say.
Yeah.
You listening is your prerogative. Like that's you.
Yeah.
And you don't have to listen.
But I'm also with you in that I would never like. I think to myself, like, people haven't walked in my shoes, so how can I expect them to understand like every single aspect of what I'm trying to explain or how I live my life? And I'm like, they just can't.
They just can't,
because they never lived my life.
No.
And like they never went through all the struggles or all of the different life events that I've been through.
Exactly.
There may be a couple, but not all of them in the sequence that occurred.
Exactly.
And so that's where I'm like, just compassion.
Mm.
Compassion and maybe a little bit of sadness for their ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, if you just take stock and open your mind and stop thinking so narrow-mindedly about everything that's going on, you at least will give yourself a chance for accepting other opportunities or other information or other energy that's going to be thrown at you in the universe, and as sentient beings that thrive on energy, that's the greatest thing that you could do for yourself, for the people around you, and for your entire life,
Exactly.
Wayne
Dyer says, if you've read any of his books or listened to his talks, I taught this to my best friend who's now 9 years old. She's my bestie, and we talk about life. And she came to me and she said...
Your best friend's 9 years old?
Yeah. She is the best gift I have ever received.
Okay.
Second to my sister. She's my little cousin.
Yeah.
My sister's my first gift, if she's listening. She came...
Shout out to your
shout
sister.
Shout out to Rahini.
What's her name?
Rahini.
Rahini?
Yeah, I love her. So Nanika, 9 years old. She basically teaches me a lot. Through our conversations, I learned so much about life. And there's one time where she's like, she's an only child, so she has trouble kind of making friends at school, and she's been having trouble with a friend. And I taught her this, and she now teaches me when I do the same kind of analogy. And she had a bully situation where getting ostracized and told no, she can't join, no, she's not allowed, and basically, just pushed out of her friendship group. And I said to Nanika, Nanika, what do you get when you squeeze an orange? And she's like, orange juice. And I was like, what do you get when a person doesn't feel so good inside of them? If they were to be like an orange, what's coming on the outside? She's like, yeah, not so good stuff, because they don't feel so good, so they don't act so good. I'm like, exactly. So she's acting not so good because she doesn't feel so good. So it's got nothing to do with you. It's how she is on the inside at that moment. And understanding that is what makes me feel compassion, as you said, to people and their things. It's their things. And I have to remind myself it's got nothing to do with me, because I'm not here for the longest time. I don't have anything to do with anything. I'm just here to express life, and then I'm gone.
Where are you going?
Who knows? They haven't really defined it.
No, they haven't, have they?
No.
You can learn so much from kids
You do.
because they haven't learnt the bad things.
They haven't.
And they're open.
Yeah. And pure.
And pure. So they ask the dumb questions, or they ask why things are the way that they are.
They ask the best questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel she has such a great way for me to understand life. And I asked her one time, and I'm probably going to fudge how she responded exactly. But I was like, Nanika, I always ask her things. And actually yesterday, she's like, when's your podcast coming out? I want to be famous too. And I'm like, I like prime, like, why do you want to be famous? Why do you want to do this? And like, we just keep going into life. So there was this one time I asked her, I was like, Nanika, why do you think humans were made? And this was her answer. This was when she was 8. Her answer was, God got a little bored and he wanted to create some fun. So he put humans down on this world to play. And we're here to play because God's bored. I was like, makes sense. Makes sense.
It kind of does.
We're just here to
make
play.
sense.
Huh?
It kind of does make sense.
Why?
Because no one really knows.
Well, that's the thing. In the spiritual text, so I'm also a yoga teacher, side note. In the Yoga Sutras, they call this thing called like Ram Leela, which like Ram is the masculine version, Leela is the feminine version. Ram Leela is also a play. It's actually a play, a title of a play. And they say that it is like toys. We're just an orchestration of this play of life and whatever I'm seeing. So it's kind of like a dream when you go into a dream and you see something so vivid and so true to you, but you wake up. So it's kind of like you come in and it seems like this is my life, my bed, my couch, my car, my husband, my wife. And then one day we wake up and the wake up is actually death. And you go into another reality. And if you, kind of use the metaphor of sleeping to awake, you realize what you thought was true is actually nothing but just a figment of our perception, interpretation. You know, a cat and a dog probably seeing different things, but we're in the same environment. You and me are seeing the same thing, but interpreting differently. So it's just a play of how I see, because I think I'm the main person playing this role.
Well, you are in your timeline.
But I'm also not the main person. I'm the person behind the person, like the cameraman behind the lens.
You are.
Yeah.
You're also the script writer.
Exactly.
And the designer.
Exactly. So that's where the play comes in. You're just writing your script. I could, unlike a tree that can only be planted where it's sowed, the seed is sowed, we human can be anything. It's just the ability to comprehend our freedom and get out of the societal systems, expectations, conformity, tall poppy syndrome of, don't be too much, don't be seen, don't be so afraid of like failing, be so afraid of showing up bold, courageous, sexy, anything that's like too much. Don't be too much. That's what society says. And I think when you are just yourself, and yourself is defined by yourself, the bigger you, that's when you go, oh, okay, I am the master, controller of this ship. And that's from that 8-year-old interpretation. I know.
It's fucking heavy.
Let's lighten it a little.
I mean, look, yes, we have consciousness, we have unconsciousness, we have voices in our head telling us what to do and voices in our head not telling us what to do. At any given point, there's like, I don't know how many thoughts are there that go through,
like
right?
85,000 or something.
Yeah, like, and then you throw in environmental, where you are. And there's that analogy of like when you plant a seed, it's not the seed that creates the plant. It's the environment, the soil that you put it in, and the nutrients. And if your seed doesn't germinate, then it's one of those two things. You're not feeding it the right thing, or you haven't placed it in the right soil. So change it.
Exactly.
Change those things, And like when you have societal pressures or like family expectations to be a certain way, I think you need to like understand like why is it like that? And if you want to make a change or if you want to go against that, that's okay. Like you're allowed to. Like you're designing your own life. So you design it the way that you want to design it.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Some people may not be happy with it. Family members, people close to you. But they're only doing that, I think, because you're not living up to their expectations. And I think when you have zero expectations, then you are just as open as you can possibly be to whatever happens in the universe, So when my best mate passed away 2.5 years ago, he's on my fridge, and I'd known him for 26 years. He was the reason I moved to Melbourne from Perth.
Wow.
Yeah. He's like, oh, the girls are better here. Took him 6 months to convince me to come over, and then I came over, and then the bastard, after 1.5 years, he moved to the UK. So I'm like, I'm here now. Well, like, what are you doing? Anyway, he came back after 4 years, and but like he's played more of an impact in my life now that he's not around than. Or probably not more, but just as much in a short time frame, because he like sends me messages.
Like what?
It's just like he either like shows me or like tells me things like, yeah, you're on the right path, like continue doing that, or like you need to stop. I'm not happy. Stop. And when he passed away, we were at his parents' house 6 months after he passed away. Okay, sorry, rewind. So he was my best man when I got married, and then he was there when I got divorced, and he was obviously the reason I came over here and all this type of stuff. And then on his wedding day, he made me his best man without actually telling me. Like,
as you do.
He calls me up 15 minutes. Sorry, he calls me up the morning of, and he's like, "Can you get to the venue 15 minutes before everybody else?" I'm like, "Yeah, sweet. Like, is everything okay?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Martha's got a corsage for you," and I'm like, "Okay, sweet. I'll be there 15 minutes early." Like, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, she's Japanese. I'm like, maybe it's a Japanese tradition. I don't know. It's a little bit weird.
Yeah.
I mean, he obviously knew that he was my best man, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm getting a corsage. Fuck, maybe I should wear a suit, because I wasn't going to wear a suit. I'm like,
God.
So I put a blue suit on. I get there. I walk in. First thing I do is like I see him, and he points at me and he goes, "Thanks for getting the memo." He was in a blue suit, right? They come and put a corsage on me. I'm like looking around. I'm going, there's only 2 other girls with corsages. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, I'm the best man. so that night at the reception was the last time I saw him, because 2 weeks later on his honeymoon in Singapore, he went to bed and he never woke up.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. 6 months after that, went to his parents' house for his birthday, and his mum explained that they had gone to see a spiritual healer in Queensland, and the spiritual healer had given them a deck of cards, and every card had one word, and they said, take a card out every day, and that's the message that Christians telling you to live by. So she gets this deck of cards out, and so me, my other mate from Perth, his sister was there, his two aunties were there. This deck of card goes around. His sister gets love. His aunt gets kindness. My other mate gets prosperity, and his mum says, these are all regular cards that we hear Christian telling us, we've seen these cards before. Yeah. So then it gets to me, and I pull out a card, and his mum says, we've never seen that card before. I'm like, fuck.
What was it?
Surrender. So that card is still on my fridge.
Wow.
And at the time I was like, I don't know what this means. It could mean a whole range of things. At the end of the day, so 2.5 years later, I'm still along the frame of mind of just surrender to what the universe throws at you, because at the end of the day, you'll always get through it, and just believe in what's your plan, you'll get through it. It's okay to change direction. It's okay to have different ideas on what you want to do and all this type of stuff, but just be open, So whenever I hear that fucking word in a song, I'm like, what are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to tell me? Whenever that word comes up on a movie, I'm like, what are you telling me right now, buddy?
That's the feeling,
Yeah.
It's when you take stock and you're just a little jolted in a way.
Yeah.
That's the little zing that they send you.
Yeah.
And it's funny you say surrender. Because
don't tell me you've got that tattooed on your body.
Not yet. 2 days ago, having gone through a bit of a rough week earlier this week, I also lean on Mum, and I think they're very powerful, especially in the form that they are in. I've seen evidence of it. And when I'm sitting in my prayer 2 days ago, the main concept, theme, dialogue that I kept having with God is I surrender. And there's a beautiful story that I learned early in my spiritual understanding, and it goes something like, there was a young boy at a seashore, on the side of the sea, trying to fill his little small bucket with the sea. And he's doing this, and he's trying to get it all in his bucket. And every time he fills up the bucket with water, he realizes the sea's not going to fill. And so he keeps trying to fill all of it, And then he gets really frustrated and starts getting more and more frustrated. And this saint is walking along, and he sees this young boy, and he kind of observes, and the young boy starts getting more and more angry. Then he, just gives up and just throws himself on the side and just starts crying. The saint walks up to the boy, and he's like, my boy, are you okay? What's wrong? Why are you crying? And the young boy looks up and he says, for hours and hours I have spent all day trying to get this ocean in my bucket. And I can't. And I've spent all my day trying to do this. And then the saint starts crying himself. And the boy looks up at the saint. He's like, why are you crying now? And the saint goes, my son, you have just taught me why I'm so frustrated. Because in my little bucket, I'm trying to understand and get the ocean of understanding inside my little bucket. It's never going to happen. It's too small. Then, plot twist. Then the little boy stops crying, takes a moment, thinks about it, grabs his bucket and he chucks it into the sea. And he says, maybe the ocean can't fit into the bucket, but the bucket can submerge and fit into the ocean. So surrender, because when you surrender, you stop trying to understand it all. You actually give yourself. That's also why in cultures they bow in the temples. They're not bowing to be submissive. They're bowing to surrender, to say, I give my mind here and I open myself to receiving and gaining your gift. Because when I'm trying to, get it, I'm just pulling something. It's too vast and too big. But when I give me to you, it's like you take care of me.
Yeah, and look, I totally get that, and I love that story. I think we're all on our own paths, and we all have to be open to things will happen for a reason. You may not know what that reason is, and that's okay. You don't have to.
No.
At the end of the day, if you're more open to receive, more things will happen.
Always.
Yeah.
It's the law of reciprocity. So you give yourself, stop holding yourself back, stop limiting, and stop expecting. Because even that's like control. And then, the law of reciprocity is you give and you give and you give. Give as an open and, it does. It's, I think the human growth for me really came a lot from learning the universal laws. Again, from a science mind, it's like, I want to learn how this thing goes. Like, I want to know. And then also I had to surrender, to the
Science is art though, right?
Science is art. It's so orchestrated in like this perfection of, art. And art is so...
The easiest example is Einstein.
Tell me.
Well, he came up with these theories. So science versus art. He came up with these theories and all of his colleagues were like, you talk a lot of shit, mate. What are you talking about? And they basically ostracized him, right?
The haters gonna hate.
Yeah, and he was like, and they were like, your theories don't make any sense. Go away.
Yeah.
And he basically became, for a better word, an artist.
Yeah.
Trying to prove his theories.
Yeah.
And he had to create evidence based on 10,000 experiments. And then once he created evidence, he went back to his peers and he was like, look, I've proved it. And then someone said, oh, okay, well, we'll have a look at that. And they looked at it and they looked at it and they looked at it, and then there was consensus. And then his theories moved from art to science. And now they're like... Facts, right?
Yes. And
so that's the like best example that I can think of is that, from an artist point of view and from a creative point of view, like, it's all it's all about perspective. It's all about like everything to do with science in some way. It's just that, yeah, okay, the collective or the masses don't agree with you, but that doesn't mean that it's wrong.
Exactly. It's just not proven yet.
Yeah, it's not proven or it's not understood.
Understood. Exactly.
You know? And it's like, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Because art's the only thing that's going to save us besides love.
Besides love.
Like,
yeah. I actually have this phrase that I say often. I say spirituality is the experience of science. It's the experience. Sometimes it cannot be explained to the degree that we can give a context, but it doesn't mean that it's not true. Just because you can't explain it doesn't mean it's not true. And it can be true for some and not for others because they're just not aware of the facts yet. They're not aware to the truth. And I've been practicing we call Sikhi, which is Sikhism. And interpreted, it's basically seeking the truth. Sikhi, try and seek the truth. And every time I go towards understanding the truth, and you go from darkness to light, which is what awareness is, you then get more and more, I guess, understanding. And I think if anyone watching or anyone in a place of, I don't know, why is this, what's going on, just seek the truth. Seek the light, seek the knowledge, seek the understanding. And every single thing, whether we know it yet or not, has explanation. And that's what moved me from science, explaining everything, and now to going, wow, there's so much that we can't even explain yet, but I can feel it. I can have an experience of it.
There are no answers in the light. The answers are in the dark.
Ooh.
The answers are in the dark.
What
You need
do you
to
mean?
embrace the dark.
Yeah.
Embrace that uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
Because that's where you're going to find the answers.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like...
Yeah.
I mean, that analogy is so true in, like, lots of different things. You know, like...
Yeah.
Embrace... Like, if you're trying to get fit or if you're trying to get, like, I don't know, lose some weight or whatever, right? You got to embrace the suck.
Yeah.
Like the portion control with your meals or the exercise or whatever, right? Like,
or I'd go a step further and be like, the dark is, why do you feel like you need to do that? And how did it get like this anyway? Like, just embrace the dark of why did I do what I did or doing what I'm about to do, like discerning and course correcting.
And then if you're like in business and you're trying to like improve your business, you may need to learn a new skill.
Exactly.
So you need to go out and be a junior again.
Exactly.
You know, like be a child.
Exactly.
Absorb that information into with what you're trying to improve and like learn something new.
Yeah.
You know.
A powerful book I read before starting my business was Everything is Figure Outable. Don't remember the author's name, but read that book and basically I was like, that's it. Anything happens, I can figure it out. With technology now, it's like you can go so far and just go, I can find anything from YouTube clip to ChatGPT to ChatGPT Pro and all the in-betweens. It's just, I think when people are not where they want to be, two reasons. They don't believe they can do what they have dreamt of, or they don't even know their dream, which is also a big one. People don't even know what they want. And two, they just don't believe they are able to figure it out. They don't believe in themselves, and then they don't believe they can figure it out. Two big things, I think, are the cornerstone of getting to where you want to experience life.
The figuring stuff out is easy because, like, you can either just, like, go ask somebody.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Read books.
You can ask the right person who's willing to give you the how.
Yes.
Right? You can read books. everything is online.
Everything's available.
If you don't know how to ask a question, work out how to ask a question and then just type it into YouTube.
I swear to God.
There's a video on anything.
The amount of people I come across and I ask for simple things, like especially in business, contracts, spreadsheet, things. I don't know how to do it. Whenever someone says, I don't know how to do it, and they don't lead after with, I'll figure it out, or can you help, or I want to learn, I'm like, that's you shortcutting yourself. When you use the words and the words are powerful, I don't know or I can't, that's it. What else is beyond that?
It's a mindset thing.
It's a mindset thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, business has taught me so many things about the realities of our potential, and also humbling me like back down to student level. And that's the pivot of life. Like if you change careers at any stage, you do start as a junior again. And
yeah,
last night,
I love being a junior.
I love learning. I love it. It's so interesting to learn.
Because then you can just like ask all the dumb questions.
You can just find out things that excite you.
But like you can do it in such a way that's like fun. Like people are just so fucking serious.
Yeah, and scared to be so silly. Look silly.
Yeah, look silly.
Say something silly.
A lot of that I think is just driven by people's egos. You know, oh, I'm going to lose face because I show a little bit of character. I'm like,
The most charismatic person I've come across are those people that have no boisterous nature to them.
Yeah.
Me, I have, they are the ones that create space for learning and space for others. They are so beautiful.
Yeah.
You
All right, I'm going to come back to a question.
Go on.
What advice would you give your younger self now that I know so much more about you?
Ooh, advice. Honestly, a part of me wants to say to that little Neha, like, don't think that this is it. Don't think that this is it. Whatever you think will be it. And lucky for me, as I said, I lived and was surrounded by so much affluence and bigness of life. And it created like how do I do that? And so even if I lived in state housing and we had no car and this and this and this and this, that was not what I was looking at. I was looking at, I want to have that opportunity and that experience of life, and I want to live like this. And how did they do it? So it created the mold of me searching and creating the life. And now, I did do all those things, and I'm really glad. So that's my advice. Just, believe that you can.
Believe that you can. What will be, will be.
Yeah, whatever you think will be. Yeah.
Are you older or younger from your sister?
Older.
You're older.
Yeah.
What is she? How much younger is she?
She just turned 31.
Okay.
Yeah.
She was always like following you around.
Always. Waiting for me to come home. At the bottom of the street, like I was that cool older sis that just so annoying. Why are you taking my clothes? Why are you liking my things? Why are you following me around? Why do you want to be friends with my friends? I'd lock her in the house sometimes. Yeah.
My sister never locked me in the house, but she used to grab me by my ears and like bang me against the cupboard.
No.
You will be the baddie when my friend comes around. What are you doing?
Oh.
I always used to, the only way I could get her back was when she was like trying to like beat me at checkers.
Yeah.
Just before her last move, I'd like flick the board and then walk off.
Would she like rinse you? Or like basically get back and just be like, get back.
Yeah. She was always, or she was always dominating, but she was always like, she's very academic. Like that's fine.
Yes.
Like super academic, and I was always living in her shadows.
Yeah, That's
and I mean, she's a assistant principal at the school that we went to when we lived in Singapore.
wow.
Right? So she's gone full circle, and she's like the ultimate alumni for the school. She's on like all their marketing material. It's a small it's a small school, but like international and like all of this. And she was like ESL to begin with, and then she just worked her way up. Now she's like assistant principal, and like her kids go to the same school and like all this, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, fuck, you like got your shit together. And then when I was a photographer, I'd like just tell her stories. She's like, you are just living in a completely different paradigm to me.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm
Normally
like,
happens with siblings like that.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure my sister feels the same because I became a scientist and she dropped out of school and this and that. She was the rebel. And they were like, you're not like your sister. But literally, little did they know I lived a double life. Like, yeah.
Tell me about that.
Oh,
what was your double life?
I wanted to be perfect for my family, especially to shield my parents, well, my mum in particular.
Fuck.
Yeah, so I had this pristine, like, perfect grades, this, that, but at nighttime I'd sneak out because we were not allowed, being raised in a South Asian family by a single mum at that time who did not want anything to happen to us because she was so, protective. Being in that environment gave me no space to be a kid because I had to grow up fast. She couldn't speak or write English. She couldn't drive a car. So I was like the responsible head. So being that responsible, perfect, secure, person, I got to a stage where I just wanted to let myself go loose, and I didn't want to do it in rebelliousness because I cared about my mum's feelings a lot because she was very sensitive. And so I would just do it. I was like, I'm not going to ask her and give her a heart attack. Like, can I go out? Can I come late? Can I do this? Can I go drinking? Can I have a boyfriend? I would just do it all behind her back. All of it. All the like sketchy things in the middle of the day, going up to a mountain with a boy when I was a teenager. Like, because in New Zealand we have a lot of mountains. Yeah, like, because we didn't have money to go anywhere, so we'd go up mountains and hang out.
Right.
And like nighttime, sneaking out when mum was sleeping, basically going down a balcony, down then a fire escape, round the garden to the front of the apartment complex. My spare clothes would be outside in the neighbour's house, like in their garden. I'd get changed from my satin pants and like sleepwear. Yeah.
This is like
hardcore.
Yeah.
Straightening my hair and like before going out, like when she's sleeping in the dark, just with like a little torchlight.
That's like next level planning.
Yeah, that was intense. It was so intense. But until I got caught.
Oh.
Yeah. And I was 21 when I got caught, and I was still not allowed to go out.
21?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Man, she was hard.
Hardcore. She was hard. She just believed anything after dark was not good for girls. And we come from a very... let me tell you, like growing up... This is the thing, like you come from this cultural background.
Yeah.
But then you live in a Western society, but she's still so... set because she didn't have exposure.
She was just trying to love you and protect you and keep you pure.
I know. And little did she know that was the cascade of me going the opposite direction and losing myself. And that's where I think parents, like now that I know what I know, having a dialogue of openness is more safe than strict rules, authority. And respect is actually when you both respect. Like as a teenager, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to experiment and I'm going to do this, but also respect that I will value things that you've taught me. I wasn't completely off the road. I just wanted to be a teenager. People go out and they do silly things and they have fun and it's part of the life. And but if I have a safe home to come to and I don't have to sneak out, then that gives me at least, I'm not so unsafe because if I'm out, nobody knows, and something happens to me, and it becomes so dangerous for me to be in that environment, then wow, like what we have to do just to have freedom. So, what was your did you have anything like that with being, from the South Asian kind of background of culture to being raised, or because you're a guy, is it different? Yeah. Is it? I don't know.
It is different.
See?
Well, my parents were very absent, like both of them.
Like working a lot?
No, my dad was working. My mum was out just like partying because
Wow.
she learned how to speak English by living in an English-speaking country, and then when we moved to Singapore, she I don't know, discovered nightclubs and friendship groups and like all this type of stuff, and I don't know, they were just very absent. And then when we moved to Perth, when my dad worked overseas, basically it got to a point where he was 6 months overseas.
Yes.
And my mum was like, "Oh, I'm just going to take your brother to Thailand." So she'd go for I don't know, month and a half, and leave my sister at home. Leave my sister and I at home. She had a car and stuff, but
wow, to raise yourself, really.
yeah, like even to this day, we still have friends. Actually, the other day, one of my friends in Perth were like, "Oh, do you remember those house parties that your sister used to throw?" I'm like, "Yeah." We're still talking about it. I'm like, crazy.
Yeah. Again, you think about how they, your mum's probably dealing with not getting the attention and the love, exactly, and she's going to seek it from friends and social society and da-da-da. And then, doing what she thought was best, but then she probably had some money, and then she wanted to create
exactly.
I'm feeling good about myself.
Yeah. But I think it is definitely different to, unfortunately, boys and girls. I think there's just this expectations that the boys will be okay, but you got to protect the girls. And I think you do to a certain extent, but then at the same time, you shouldn't boys need the same level of protection as well. Because again, that whole planting the seed analogy, if they hang around all the wrong people, and my fiance was saying, with what's happened to me, you could have gone a completely different. You could have gone a completely different route to the way that I went, and I went completely opposite to my dad. I could have turned out like my dad.
That's the crossroad, right?
But for some reason, I didn't.
Because you chose.
Because I chose love, and I chose to try to understand. And when I was younger, all I ever wanted to do was to grow up, because then people would take me seriously. And now that I guess I'm kind of grown up. I'm 45 this year. Woohoo! All I want to do is have fun.
Yeah.
And make people laugh. Yeah. And
not grow up so much.
Don't take things so seriously.
So what would be a lesson that you would tell your younger self?
So prior to me turning 18, when that thing happened with my dad, I was a completely different person. Imagine a completely different person to how I am right now. I was an introvert. I was timid. I didn't really know where I fit in, right? Yeah. So the advice that I would give is don't be afraid just to be yourself, and do things that you want to do, and have a voice, because it's okay. Things will work out. And if I'd had that advice given, and if I started sooner, would I be in an even more better place than I am now? I don't know. I don't have any regrets
Mm-hmm.
because I think that my past has put me in the position that I'm in today. It's made me who I am, and I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I still have heaps of stuff to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
I want to do more travel. I want to do more creative stuff. I want to take this podcast to wherever this podcast is going.
Yeah.
You know, and get to meet lots of new amazing people that sit across from me and tell me their stories. You know.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I feel it's a privilege to be able to hear a soul story. You know.
Mm. And I guess I also want to like develop stronger bonds with people, stronger, longer lasting relationships with people, you know, because I think collectively we can learn so much more together than if you were trying to learn alone.
100.
You know.
And also you need a little soundboard of where you think you've learned.
Yeah.
And then real-time relationships showing you what is actually the reality. Because I relate to that in this respect. Learning so much and went into hibernation of learning for 8 years while I lived in the countryside during the mining era of my life. That was when losing my mum happened. And so 8 years of healing, and I'm like, oh, I feel after that, like moved to Melbourne. And it wasn't until I had real close relationships that all the shadows came to the surface of like, actually, you have this that you thought you had dealt with because you studied the theory, but the practical exam is here. And that's where relationships grow you real time because it's more than just theory.
Yeah, exactly.
You're giving the, exchange an example.
So talk to me about this space that you have because there's an event happening tomorrow, right?
Yes, celebrating us with Paula. The space that I have was and is a space holder for art and artists to heal using art because since the beginning of human time, we dance, we sing, not every culture is different and has a varying degree, but we dance, we sing, we tell stories, we have art, we have mediums of expressions. And along the journey, we lose that because we get so serious and we get so bogged down. And for me, my healing journey came from actually laying on the floor, listening to music, dancing when I felt like I couldn't find joy again. I started writing poetry when my mum passed away and also when I had a big relationship breakdown. And that was all the cathartic audio visual like mediums of almost like an imprint of your expression and healing real time because art is expressing yourself. And so when I walked into the chemotherapy rooms with my mum's treatment, I realized it's so sterile in here. It's so like, I'm not even sick, but I feel so sick. You walk down a hospital corridor, isn't it? It's so stale.
Yeah, because they're like trying to clean all the germs that are coming off you.
I know, but like at least some paint on the wall or music or some incense of some like lavender or something just sweet, to remind you that it's not so bad. Even though it is bad, we just have a little soft pillow somewhere, rather than just a hard chair where you sit in. And so I used to sit with her and chemotherapy lasts hours and it was cold and sterile. And I'd envision like my brain was just like playing music in the background because I myself wanted to get comfortable and experience something other than the prison that I felt like it was. And all respect to treatment and Western treatment is, good and great. However, there is a missing link of community and art and expression and really fundamental evolution, if you are in palliative care and you're about to pass away, besides the treatment, how do you refine the regrets and say your goodbyes and pour your heart out when you've never been built that way? And how do you say your last, conversations? How do you express? Art can do that. I can write, or I can recite something, or I can paint something. And so I wanted a space where people can do healing. And also I realized from the treatment that we do have available to us, either it's inaccessible in the timely manner we need it, it's inaffordable for the masses. Psychologist appointments range from like 120 to 200 plus, for 1 hour. It's just not an everyday thing. So I opened Artful Yoga Gallery, which is in St Kilda here in for that reason. And it's an art gallery, and it's a art space where music and dance and meditation, and I teach yoga there along with other teachers. And so many young emerging artists. Young as in young at heart. Young as in young in their pivotal, like we change careers at this crossroad thing. Emerging artists, young in their field, but also, they just need opportunities. A lot of them are born, or rather they rise, I should say, in this space.
That's so cool. Like you're basically wanting to create that space for other people to cultivate, their art and their creativity.
Exactly.
In their own healing journey.
Exactly. And it's a privilege, because everything that I had, I put towards it, and every hour of my day is spent thinking about it, working towards it, devoting myself to it. And I do feel sometimes I'm doing almost too much, because it's become my life. But I admittedly will say it's my coping mechanism to feel like I'm doing life justice and my mum's legacy, and the sign is pink for breast cancer because it is for her. And it is like a shrine, almost like a memorial, like dedication to her. And her energy lives there for sure, and so many beautiful milestones and other people's lives happen there. Like people, it's a private hire space too. So there was like an engagement on the 1st of January where someone proposed and, got engaged. And baby showers happen and birthdays happen, but all very like, I'm very, discerning, with the right people and the right creativity and what they're trying to achieve, and not just a place to party. It's a place to rejoice life. And it's third year, and it feels like my dream definitely has been so much bigger than I thought. And that's what I say, you do have a plan, but life does have a way, 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 way more beautiful way to interpret it. Like it's like going in and drawing on a canvas. You're like, okay, I'm gonna plant this, I'm going to draw this plant, and it's going to look like this. But how it actually comes out on the canvas is quite different, maybe a little or a lot, but it's different to what you imagine. And that's what I think this process has been. I'm like, I'm going to create a yoga space and meditation center. And I walk in, and the studio's like in the middle of COVID. They were renting these rooms, and I said, I can't really rent the small rooms for yoga or meditation. And they're like, well, we were thinking of giving the space, lease, giving the transfer of lease to someone. It's not even on the market. And I'm like, really? Art gallery? Ooh, never thought about that. Never been into, I'm not, savvy in the space, but life had a dream for me, and it was bigger than my dream. And I think that is what, the kind of core of this is, you will have a great dream. But if you take action on that great dream, life will reward you. And every time you work on something, life is listening and watching. Every hour you spend, all work works. Like every time you put in the work, there's a cause and effect. And maybe it's not, the seed isn't going to grow tomorrow, but you sow it and you love it and you love it, and you create the environment and you love it. And that beautiful blossoming of that will uproot one day. And the fruit it bears because of so much love is way beyond, and the shade it creates for others to, you know, like take shade from is way bigger. And I know it's like it's coming up and it's like a little, you know, it's a growing seed at the moment, but I know I can feel and I can experience the seed growing into this big bloom because already so many people's lives have been touched by it. And it's so, I'm so humbled that people like cry and like weep and find their love and find love for strangers. And like I've never seen this human movement to the degree I'm experiencing it now. And that's what I'm saying about I can already see the fruits. I think I'm like fed by this, you know, in all the aspects of life, but it's feeding other people's lives too.
There would be a level of reward and recognition that you're getting by seeing all these different like people have these experiences in your space.
So much.
Yeah.
Yeah, like even running a big healing thing for me was learning about attachment theory. And I teach it now because it really helped me learn about myself. And, you know, we come from these attachment styles that we learn privy in our childhood, and it creates the dynamic for our relationships now. Teaching just how you are in relationships and just, again, it goes back to understanding. If you understand something, then you can really go, oh, it's not just thing. Not just nothing. Why? There's always a because. Because this happened. So I teach these attachment theory workshops. One's happening next week. And for example, in that workshop, like people heal their long-term relationships with people. And I'm only taking one class and it's maybe 2-3 hours long. That 2-3 hours takes away 20-30 years of someone's experience in a really tumultuous relationship. Like Paula came to one and, you know, like ask her, she was like the ambassador child. Like she was like talking and expressing and other people were talking and expressing. You said before, healing happens better together, doesn't it? It really, makes a big difference.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference. So I just want unity. I want people to be like, there's enough space for everybody.
So what's happening in the space like next year, or like what have you got planned for?
Well, I see myself, I'm going into transition, so hopefully all the paperwork comes right because I want to turn it to a not-for-profit. I've literally submitted everything. Wow. Everything is submitted. Do you know how many loopholes?
Yeah.
Like you have to get through and so many questions and this and this and that's okay. I'm working on it.
So you've done all the paperwork?
All done.
Or do we need listeners to like help out?
Oh, well, just pray. It's all done. Like I've submitted everything.
Okay.
I've had some back and forth with the Australian Charity Association and asking them questions and all of that. But what I would say, if people want to be part of this movement, we, as part of a not-for-profit, we have to have a committee. So a committee can be made of people that are just interested in making this happen on scale. And if you've got skill sets like financial or marketing or community or artistry or anything, and you want to take those kind of responsible roles, and we can grow. So as a charity, everything has to go back. It can't just become like a cumulative, like I can't just have millions stacked in the business account. It has to keep going back into the moment, like the momentous kind of movement for it. Keep going forward with it and helping it grow. So that's what's happening anyway. Like I keep putting it back to making it grow. I envision it becoming a solid, like, you know, standalone, its own community entity. So no longer just like I can't own it. I don't want to own it. I just wanted to start it. And then I want other people to, I don't want to do this alone. It's too much. I never wanted to have like me be the director. I did want to do it, but I always wanted, I envision, I'm like, there's great people standing in this huge line and everyone's doing their beautiful thing. And I'm just one of those beautiful things.
Like a symphony.
Like a symphony. Yeah. And that's what next year, I hope it all, becomes like a not-for-profit. People can help fund it. It goes back to them because it's all tax deductible, and it keeps going back to the community, and everything is accounted for in the community. So more and more people get, because we've got all these charities. I just don't see many arts. Like there's art charities that government, own, and they do their thing. That's great. But independent, small art, really, I don't know many. So where are the arts going to grow? Melbourne is so beautiful with all the artists. They're so cool.
It is.
We're so talented here.
We're very lucky.
We're so lucky, and we're so talent is off the charts here. I just think we need a space where there's no judgment, prerequisite. Who are you? How many followers? How much have you put yourself out there? What do your record labels look like? What's your story? What do you have to say? Here's a stage. That's it.
I think you've sold me. I think I want to be part of this not-for-profit.
I swear this is so good because it feels good.
I think I want to be part of this
Oh
not-for-profit.
my God.
Let's talk after the podcast. Yeah.
This is what I mean by I don't have to sell it because it's just so good that it has a way of. That's why Paula and I she just, started, we met online and then basically she saw, and it was already like a love thing. Like we already loved each other's like energy and presence. And then when she actually came into the space and she undertook a workshop and then we got to know each other, it's like done, family. How can I help you? What can I do? You don't need to sell something that's just easy to understand. Like it's quite easy to understand that humans need humans. And that's what we're about. We're just here to connect, create, and allow the creativity to then heal. That's simple as it comes.
Exactly.
And the not-for-profit would really, it's so good if we, can make that change, because then we put the stamp and we say we can't have one sole benefitor from it. Everybody benefits. And even like I'm wanting to create like a bit of a barter system, so it doesn't have to always be monetary. And I fully disclose, I'm like, if you can't attend for financial or any barrier should not be the restriction. Nothing should be a barrier to healing. So I'm like, exchange your time, volunteer. If not volunteer, give me love. Like help me make a cup of tea. Sit with me, just kind of console me when I'm crying. Be my therapist. Yeah, so this is the new way that the world is going in, and I'm so humbled that I get to sit in a position where I can do all of my dreams, like they're here, and then my dreams help other people's dreams, and that's like, I think I'm so rich. I'm so rich because I can see this happiness when people do what they love. There's so much happiness, and money can't buy it, things can't buy it. Your soul is happy because your soul's just living its light.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm going to invite you to a concert. We do these conscious concerts. It's like going to gospel, and you just hear people's hearts. Like, there's a really Lawrence, I'll show you a clip of his from the last concert. Very shy, came into a concert. At the end, he waited for everybody to leave an hour or something later. He's waiting right at the end, watching for everyone, patiently waiting for me. At the end, he comes up, he's like, I've got two sisters, and your personality really reminds me of them. And thank you for creating the space. And he came alone. He's like, I feel so comfortable. And he is very shy, very, very reserved, very shy. And then he started crying, and he said, I just had a really hard couple of months, and it's taken its toll. And I feel like there's hope. and thank you. And he told me, he's like, if you would have me, I'd love to come back as an artist. I actually express myself through art, and I sing and I play songs. And I said, I don't even look. This is the thing. I don't care if someone says this is what I want to do and their intention is great. I swear, I just trust the process. I don't.
It all comes down to intention.
Intention, exactly. And we have such a supportive community. Even if you're awful, like whatever the definition of like not good enough or whatever, the soul, if you're just intentional and pure and yourself, people hold space for everyone. There's no criticism. That's the number one rule. I'm like, kindness is number one. So he came back and he belted out his voice like he was this mad rock star, like just living his best life. And his mum and dad were there, and he's half Asian, half European, and like, you know, from a very conservative background, and he's quite shy and this, and he had this like moment of grandeur, you know, like he was just big in his being, like fully himself. And I know how proud he was and how proud his parents were, and he wants to do it again. I'm like, yeah, Lawrence, go off.
Sounds amazing.
So that's what we're building. We're just building through art and love.
How can people contact you or find you?
Well, the easiest would be Instagram. So Artful.Yoga.gallery.
I'll have that come up.
Yeah. And on the website, it's super simple to find out what's going on, what we're doing.
Yeah.
I really I have a dream of going to Rajasthan, northern India, in late January for a bit of an art wellness expedition. And I'm wanting to go because I think we should live large. We should get out of our comfort zone.
Definitely.
I think we need to go see the world. And if we can have like a way, and you know, right now, like people go, oh, it's too expensive or this, that. There's so many ways to do so many things. I myself have those conversations. But long story short, I'm like, let's go live like a family. Let's have family trips. Let's have family experiences, you know.
Anybody want to go to India?
Yeah, anybody want to go to India? Yeah, that's like the next wish list.
I have to go to New Zealand in January for a wedding.
Oh, beautiful. I mean, we could go on fair, but it's depending when the Christmas kind of like high prices come a little bit down.
Yeah.
And also people come back from their holiday. So late January, early Feb. But I want to go and have like a photography kind of, you learn about culture, you take photographs. And I envision, my brain is envisioning we take these photographs of these people that go, and we collect the kind of all the art that we make, and we put up an exhibition of our expedition. And we create this kind of turnaround. So we fund these communities who we photograph. We find these small communities and we go, okay, we'll take your photograph, a portion of the sales will go back to you, you know. So that's what I'm thinking.
That sounds amazing. It is limitless. Ideas are limitless.
Yeah, and actually execution is also limitless.
Yeah.
Anyone can do anything.
Neha, thank you so much for coming along to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you for being so gracious, for believing in your process too.
Yeah.
Of doing all these beautiful things.
Yeah, like I don't know. As I said, I don't know where this podcasting thing's going to go, but I'm just enjoying doing it, falling in love with the process, meeting so many amazing people. Can't wait to hear how the event's going to go tomorrow. I'm sure Paula will tell me all about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the non-for-profit.
Yes. Thank you.
Amazing.
All my love.
Thanks everyone for listening in. Make sure you hit subscribe and that notification bell, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.